South Africans and the ICT industry have welcomed the appointment of Democratic Alliance's Malatsi as the new Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies. This under the newly formed Government of National Unity. Industry players have called for an industry shake-up, urging Malatsi to finalize South Africa's spectrum policy and solve the crises at the South African Post Office and the South African Broadcasting Corporation. We unpack his appointment and the ICT industry's expectations with Business Days. Mudiwa Gavaza. Mudiwa, always a pleasure. Hello.
Greetings, Norutando.
Thank you for being with us today, Mudiwa. Let's get right into it. You would have, of course, covered this sector, right, as a former minister, now deputy minister, Mudiwa Gavaza oversaw it, and now we're seeing him come in as deputy minister and Malatsi come in as a minister. It sounds like the sector is okay with it.
I think the sector is just excited to have some fresh blood, in the industry. I do know that one of the things that was quite interesting and that I find particularly interesting with this appointment is I reflect on the Africa Tech Summit that happened last year in Cape Town, at which, the matter of, age, became a thing that people were talking about, to say that if we're going to have, ICT departments and sectors on the continent, there should be a greater push to have those being youth-led. So, we are, and funny enough, Minister Gumumbele was, part of that particular discussion, at that time, So it is interesting that we have an appointment where we have someone who's under 40, coming into that particular role. He is no stranger to the portfolio because he has served as minister, so he's probably quite abreast, with the issues, affecting the sector. And I think just, the fact that, this is the first time that you have a non-ANC person leading that particular ministry, which is quite a key ministry, especially when you then think about it against the context of the fact that President Cyril Ramaphosa has, drummed the beat quite a bit around, the promise of technology and the 4IR.
Also keen then, Mudiwa, to get your thoughts here on some of the work that needs to be done within this industry. Like you're saying, it's quite a big sector, and the first thing that we must talk about is the parastatals that sit within this portfolio, the SABC and the Post Office. Both of them, I think, in tough territory, maybe one more than the other, but something that the minister should probably have a vision and a plan for.
Yeah, definitely. I have been making efforts to try and get in touch with her on a deal swearing in. It can be a bit tough and all that. But as a guide to what, the minister will likely be focusing on, we have quite a lengthy document from the DA. It's a 72-page policy document just on ICT that they released, this year. And when it comes specifically to some of those parastatals, they do address almost all, each of the big individual ones in the sector. On the SABC, for example, one of the things that they ask is, do we even need to have a national broadcaster? And they suggest, a process, almost a referendum of some sort where you go out, you seek public consensus around whether or not people see a need, for a public broadcaster. And if so, then you keep it. If not, then, maybe that's something that can be privatized. If it's kept, one of the things that has been suggested is perhaps we could look at a federated model where instead of having a national broadcaster, you have a series of provincial broadcasters, that are running this content and programming into their specific provinces, as opposed to, a centralized web that is being run out of Johannesburg. Those are just some of the things, at least on SABC front. And then obviously a tough one, 8 billion rand, I believe, since 2018 that has been poured into that particular business. One of the suggestions from the DA is, hey guys, perhaps the big thing that needs to be done is to at least sort out the parcel delivery part of things. Maybe look into doing e-commerce deliveries, work with the likes of Takealot to learn what types of models they're using, and maybe we can, help to increase some of that. They do see a place for it, particularly in your rural areas and that type of thing. So those are just some of the suggestions that have come through for some of the big parastatals. And then I think just the last one I'll touch on is Telkom. Part of their suggestion is just using Telkom as a way in which you can help to level the playing field, particularly for smaller players in the sector around fiber, around fixed line services. And they also talk about a separation of, wholesale, the consumer business, and maybe even reducing government's ownership of that particular entity.
I don't have much time left, Mudiwa. I must ask you your wish list for the sector. When you think about it, what do you think is absolutely urgent for the incoming minister?
There's a lot in the sector, but I think on my side, it would be let's get digital migration done and dusted. It's been too long that we've been talking about this. I mean, even just policies around set-top boxes have come and gone simply because the technology went past, and the policy interventions that had been suggested. Set-top boxes aren't even needed anymore because most TVs have digital tuners in them already. So this is a process that has taken way too long to complete, way too many resources. Almost every year, we're reporting on budgets that are being allocated by Treasury towards completing the digital migration. So that would definitely be a personal one on my side. And I think just the fact that it's one of those that affects the sector across the board, because it's affecting your broadcasters and it's affecting your telecoms operators as opposed to the individual silos. I really think that is one that we definitely need to sort out right now.
Well, Mudiwa, all we can do is sit back and watch, and hopefully we can, take a review over the next few months. Thank you for your time this afternoon. That was Mudiwa Gavaza, business writer for The Business Day.